Today we're going to be talking about my collection, but what I want to know about in the comments is what kind of things do you collect, especially if they're horror themed. They don't have to be DVDs or Blu-rays or books. They can be toys and props and autographs, things like that, because I know as horror fans we all have an interest or a tendency towards collecting things and being really proud of our collection. So I kind of want to know, what do you guys like? If this is the kind of stuff I enjoy, what's the kind of stuff that you enjoy? I get the occasional request for, have you seen this movie, or you should do a video on this book, but most of the time what people ask is, can I see those shelves behind you? Can you make a video that's a collection tour of your stuff? So that's what we're going to do today. I figured it's a little Halloween present to people who've been asking, and thank you so much for watching. If this is your first time checking out one of my videos and this is the one that you stumbled on, you should know that I usually do much more in-depth reviews of movies, and then what I do is I pair them with books, because I am myself a horror author, and while I love horror movies, I think that horror fiction doesn't exactly get the representation, it doesn't get the discussion that it should on YouTube. So that's kind of my normal thing. If you want to watch more of these videos, you can click on my name down there, and please subscribe if you like what you see. Two more last notes before we get started. The first one is that this is a very long video. So some of you who wanted like a whole walkthrough of my DVD collection are going to be a little bit disappointed when I like skip past titles or don't pull out the spines and show you what they look like and talk about them. But if you have any questions about any release or like any version of a movie that I have, please ask me in the comments. I'll be down there and I'll be willing to answer if I know the information. Going along with that, a lot of these movies I did do full video reviews, so if you want to listen to me talk about the Arrow American Horror Project box set for like 15 minutes, there's going to be a link down in the description for you to do that. Along with those links, I'll also throw a link to my website, a link to my mailing list where you can check out some of my work, buy some of my work, or get one of these brand new Video Night t-shirts designed by Chris Enterline. All the information for that is on my website. Okay, enough ado. On with the tour. Hopefully this works out. I'm going to try to light it the best I can and show you the most movies I possibly can in the time we have. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do, we're just going to go from the top to the bottom of this shelf here. Starting out right here, which is the only movie that we're going to talk about that's not a DVD or a Blu-ray. This is a Super 8 condensed version of Hammer's Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed, starring Peter Cushing. Next we have the Phantasm Collection. This got a lot of talk, a lot of buzz on the internet. I'm sure you heard about that one. It's a really good set. The Mill Creek box set to end all Mill Creek box sets. The Cult Cinema Drive-In Collection. 200 features, many of them duplicates or things that I have in other formats and better formats, but still a really cool set, really nice looking set. This is the Tales from the Crypt box set that Warner's just put out. As we move on, you'll notice that I've tried to organize some things thematically, some things by publisher or company or label that put them out. We've got your Puppet Master, the first 3 films, the best 3 films. We've got Battle Royale. Here we've got my Severin Blu-rays. I did my best to kind of pick out where the Severin titles were. Out of these, I've talked about on the show before, Axe and the Kidnapped Coed, the Frederick Friedel set, which is actually signed by the director right there. Wonderful, wonderful set, wonderful films. And this William Castle collection's got a bunch of great movies in it. Who doesn't love The Tingler or Mr. Sardonicus? Then we take a slight detour into animated territory. These Looney Tunes sets that Warner put out are really, really great. And two of my favorites are from animator Ralph Bakshi, Wizards and Heavy Traffic. Some great stuff. And then here in this corner, all of these are actually signed, and that's why there's a book here, the novelization of Color Me Blood Red, written by Herschel Gordon Lewis, signed by Herschel Gordon Lewis. I Spit on Your Grave, signed by Camille Keaton. Adrienne Barbeau signed this Escape from New York. Lloyd Kaufman signed The Mother's Day. Director Jeff Lieberman signed Blue Sunshine to me there. It's a really cool edition. Brian Trenchard Smith signed this edition of Stunt Rock. It's pretty great. And Joe Dante signed this Trailers from Cal compilation. Oh, and director Izzy Lee, great short filmmaker. If you haven't seen her stuff, directed this kind of quickie called Innsmouth. It's really, really fun. Next shelf down, we've got some big release stuff, and then we've got the wonderful Island Claws, the Guy and Smith adaptation thrown in there just for flavor. And next to it we have a remarkably better adaptation of Joe Lansdale's Cold in July. Then we've got the Chucky films. Then we've got one of two editions of my favorite movie of all time, Russ Meyer's Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. We'll see another one of those later. On this shelf, it's mostly Draft House films. If I'm going to talk about, if I would have to talk about or pick a favorite of one, you know, I got to go with my boy Ben Wheatley, A Field in England. You got Kill List right next to that. Next shelf. These are a lot of import discs, mostly import discs on this shelf. Got the Universal Monsters collection. This was the first way to get these films on Blu-ray, and kind of the best way, most affordable way to get them on Blu-ray was to actually order it from Amazon.uk. Really, really great transfers of these movies. Another foreign DVD or foreign Blu-ray, Blood on Satan's Claw is one of my favorite films. This is a really, really great transfer of that. And another recent movie that I talked about, Raw, which I got actually on a trip to Spain. I had to pick this up because there is no U.S. Blu-ray release of my favorite movie this year. Your mileage may vary, but it's my favorite movie this year. Next shelf, we've got Nukem High along with its most recent sequel, a couple Mad Men seasons, because those fit thematically, right? Southland Tales, the criminally underrated Richard Kelly's movie I actually enjoy more than Donnie Darko. Moving on this shelf, it's mostly Roger Corman produced films. These were released by Shout Factory. I think they started releasing these before they even had the Scream Factory label, so these are all DVDs, but they're Roger Corman Cult Classics Collection double feature. If I were to recommend one thing in this section, one movie in this section, I would recommend The Velvet Vampire, which is a real oddity, a shot out in the desert vampire film that mostly takes place in the sunlight, has some really, really interesting thematics, and is quite groundbreaking for its time, as slapdash and weird as it is. This next quadrant or area of the shelf is mostly indie film, contemporary indie film, contemporary. We're talking less than $1 million budgeted films here. My favorite on this section, or one of my favorites on this section, is the WNUF Halloween special. Chris LaMartina and Jimmy George's faux television documentary. If you haven't seen it, it's got fake commercials in there. It's the perfect Halloween nostalgia film. And then, of course, my buddy Mike Lombardo, The Stall, also great if you haven't seen it. Next shelf, we have a real mixed bag. Actually, not a ton of genre stuff on this shelf, except for Return of the Living Dead there. City of the Living Dead here. Fulci. Who doesn't love Fulci? Right next to the African Queen, which is just how I sort my movies. Here, this shelf is mostly Something Weird video releases, although we also have the Dark Sky Films release of Werewolves on Wheels, a movie I unabashedly love. Not exactly a so bad it's good movie for me, just a movie that kind of mixes all the things I like together. We got bikers on there, we got werewolves in there, we got Satanists in there. It's a great movie. And we got the Something Weird double features and standalones here, and compilations, The Weird World of Weird, which is a really cool compilation. Another shelf where we don't have much horror, but we do have Bobcat Goldthwait's Willow Creek, a movie I really, really, really enjoy. A movie that seems to be a love it or you hate it thing, but it's fine. I love it. I'll fight you on the internet about it. That's cool. Next DVD shelf, all DVDs here, mostly genre stuff. We've got The Car, Universal's release of The Car. Look at that shiny cover. Pretty Poison, starring Anthony Perkins. Tuesday Weld, fun thriller. All right, we're done with that little shelf. Now we're moving on to the big boy. We're moving on to the big shelf. Across the top, we have the Halloween Scream Factory collection there. The Basement, which actually comes with a VHS tape in there. Oh, some guy's books, some weirdo internet person's books. Some more books. A wonderful crocheted shrunken head guy from Beetlejuice. My mother actually got that for me. I don't know where she got it from. I don't know who the artist is, but it's incredible. Some more books by a questionable guy, and a fake VHS of The Video Dead, which actually has a bunch of candy and stuff inside. My friend Oren Gray sent me that. For this row, we've got Synapse all lined up in a row. If I were to pick a favorite out of these, I couldn't do it. I love The Intruder, 80s slasher in a supermarket. Absolutely fantastic production value. And then we've got these 4 Hammer releases that they put out. They were really incredible. The best of them all being Twins of Evil. I wish they would release more Hammer stuff, because those were great releases, and I love those movies. And we've got Garage House Pictures, which is actually a little anemic at the moment because I lent out a couple of my discs to my friend Scott. So he's got those. I've talked about a couple of these before. Trailer Trauma even got its own video. Then we have the Kino when they re-released Redemption's catalog. If I had to pick a favorite of this, you got to go with Jean Rollin. Fascination. My French pronunciation isn't that good, but I love the man's films. Some other fun stuff here, like Pete Walker, and the Pete Walker Fest continues onto this shelf where I've got the first collection they put out. Really great stuff. The next label only shelf is set aside for Vinegar Syndrome, starting with their very first release, which I believe was a Kickstarter. The Lost Films of Herschel Gordon Lewis. If you haven't seen Horror House on Highway 5, I don't think I've talked about any of these on the channel, but if you haven't seen Horror House on Highway 5, one of the craziest slasher movies of all time, shot over a number of years from the 70s into the 80s, and you can basically see the production age as it's being filmed. Incredible movie. These a bunch of these just came out, and they're doing this thing where they if you order them online, you get these great slip cases. Look how vibrant the covers for the Corpse Grinders is. This is a great release of a movie that it's just so weird. Killer cats being fed human beings by nefarious cat food mobsters. Some more Vinegar Syndrome, some of the double features they released here. We got 2 Lars von Trier films, or I guess television show, plus a film, Dancer in the Dark, starring Bjork. Critters collection, who doesn't want to own that? The Kreitz. Dead End Drive-In, because I as you'll notice, I have a bunch of Brian Trenchard Smith films mixed in here. Movies I love. Slaughter High, which should be getting a Blu-ray soon, which I'm excited about. But I'm not excited about the idea of rebuying something. The Mad Max Scream Factory release. The supposedly now out of print Friday the 13th steel set, box set. It's weird, it has nothing on the spine to let you know that you've got all that Jason goodness hiding in there. Some more Something Weird, one of the Image box sets that they did. Columbia Pictures Film Noir Classics Volume 1, which isn't thematic at all, isn't horror at all, but includes The Big Heat, which is one of my all-time favorite movies. You can see Lee Marvin splash in the face with hot coffee. Spoiler alert. The Dr. Orloff films, Jess Franco. We'll see some more Jess Franco later in the tour. Where I keep all my Mill Creek box sets of varying quality. The best of these is this little triple feature they just put out. It includes The Brotherhood of Satan, Torture Garden, The Creeping Flesh. I forget what it's called. It's called like Circus of Horror, something like that. But if you get it online, that's what it's called. But if you flip the cover around, it has the original poster art instead of their somewhat cheesy Photoshop. Moving on. Some trailer compilations. A set that includes Waxwork, and 976 Evil 2, Octoman. This next shelf is almost exclusively print-on-demand Warner Archive titles. This was before they were doing Blu-rays, but they would have crazy sales. So I picked things up like The Pack starring Joe Don Baker, or Freebie and the Bean, or Two on a Guillotine, which is a wonderful little pop boiler. Next shelf's where I get super snobby, because I've got my Criterion editions laid out here. So Videodrome, Repo Man, the America Lost and Found BBS box set, which is great. No real genre pictures in it, but if you haven't seen Head, the movie starring the Monkees, it's a really great movie, really fun movie musical. And as promised, my favorite movie of all time, Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. If you haven't seen it, you owe it to yourself. A slasher musical Hollywood satire co-written by Roger Ebert. The Red Shoes, so classy. House. Kronos, Guillermo del Toro. The Lone Wolf and Cub set. And then we start the Arrow. I put these two, I only really have two of the Arrow Academy releases, which is their kind of Criterion contender. So I put that at the beginning of the Arrow section. These releases are all fantastic. I've talked about a good number of them. Mark of the Devil is wonderful. Jack Hill, Spider Baby. The art they do on there is they're one of the few company that does original art for their releases that I actually think the original art most times is better than the poster, which I know is sacrilege, but I love them. The American Horror Project, I did a video on these three films. Female Prisoner Scorpion Collection, while not explicitly genre, is one of the better releases in years. This was actually the first Arrow I got. This is the only British Arrow DVD I got. I had to get Mario Bava's Bay of Blood, and it is region free. I don't have a regionless DVD player, so. Societies, a lot of fun. The Stray Cat Rock movies, like the Female Prisoner Scorpion release, really wonderful. Some Mondo Macabro films. The Mafu Cage, starring Carol Kane. It's a really good psychological thriller. We've got the Three Musketeers. If you're sensing any kind of trends going on here, I have a bunch of Oliver Reed movies. The two AGFA releases, the American Genre Film Archive, I did a whole video on those. They're really something special. Hope they keep putting them out. Some Severin DVDs. The Loved Ones. If you've seen The Devil's Candy, which just made a little bit of a splash, this is that same director's first movie. Not on Blu-ray, but a really great little film. Some more monster movies, some slashers like Madman, the Code Red release. Two kind of really crappy releases of Ken Russell movies, The Devils and Gothic, right next to each other. And then you follow that up with the classiness that is Carnosaur and Carnosaur 2. Girly. It's a Freddie Francis film, a British kind of horror, kind of Harold Pinter-esque comedy of manners. Really great. Some more Pete Walker. Starting with The Bloody Dead and Dr. Dracula, I went on a little bit of a Sam Sherman and Al Adamson binge, so I've got all these. Lord knows why, but sometimes someone's aesthetic, you just can't tell. Starting all the way at the top, we're getting close to the end of the collection. Some of Code Red's new Blu-ray releases. First three are Andy Milligan films. If you are a connoisseur of outsider art or strange movies, you can't do much better than the Bloodthirsty Butchers. Halloween 2, which I keep around, even though you saw that Halloween set before, that actually has Terror in the Isles, which is a clip movie starring Donald Pleasance. We got some more Crystal Martina films, Call Girl of Cthulhu, which is Really, really great. It's incredible what that team can do with so little money. It's really amazing. We got Corman's World, which if you haven't seen it, is a career retrospective on Roger Corman. I really, really recommend it. One of my heroes, if it weren't apparent from my collection. Nicholas Winding Refn's Only God Forgives. Heathers. Ooh, this is a good shelf. Let me put my good stuff on here. Martha, let's try that again. Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene, starring Elizabeth Olsen and John Hawkes. One of the best cult thrillers ever. My boy Ben Wheatley again. The continuation of the Roger Corman cult collection from Shout Factory. These are the Blu-rays they release. Death Race 2000, the quintessential Roger Corman film, starring David Carradine and Sly Stallone. We've got the Amityville box set. Tales from the Hood, which is a recent release. One of the best horror anthology films ever, in my opinion. People point to the 90s as being kind of a dead zone for horror cinema, but this movie's fantastic. Slither, Phantom of the Paradise, because we've talked about musicals and how I love musicals. Sleepaway Camp 1 and 2. You'll notice I don't have 3, but gotta have Sleepaway Camp 2 with the boss's sister in there. Deadly Blessing, the Larry Fessenden collection, the Vincent Price collection. I actually have their Paul Nassy collection, but it damaged in shipping, so I had to have them send me a new one. More Scream Factory on this shelf. Everything. This is I guess this is the only label that gets 2 shelves, just because they're so incredibly prolific. They release so much stuff, and these releases are pretty good. The Guardian, I think that was one of my first, if not my first, video on the channel. William Friedkin's The Guardian. Worth talking about at length if you want to click over there. Good to see you, Alice Cooper, because as we've established, I love musicals and music. Ghoulies 1 and Ghoulies 2. The real Godfather 1 and Godfather 2 of little animal creatures movies. Ben and Willard, which I think we discussed at some point. Bad Moon, Eric Red's very underrated werewolf picture. The House That Screamed and the Laura Lee's Grasp. I get some love Spanish horror. Monster of the Piedras Blancas. Beautiful black and white monster movie where they use the hands from the Mole Men from Universal's The Mole Men as the monster. It's got some real early gore, real early like severed heads and crabs crawling across viscera. The Final Girls. I'm real hit or miss on horror comedies, but The Final Girls really hit my sweet spot. It's a really funny movie, really great cast. The Monster Club, starring Vincent Price. Anthology film, really goofy British anthology film, but one of the segments in there is incredible. I love it. White Lightning, starring Burt Reynolds. Not at all a horror film. Some Horodowski, Santa Sangre. Audition. When I said Beyond the Valley of the Dolls was my favorite movie of all time, Audition's close up there, along with the original Dawn of the Dead. Miike's finest hour, I think. Some more Hammer. These were the Millennium editions of Dracula, Prince of Darkness, and Frankenstein Created Woman. Really cool releases. I don't think they did many more beyond this. Blair Witch and the Blair Witch Project. I know it's a sore spot for some fans, but I like this one. Straw Dogs, Dawn of the Dead, which we just mentioned. Boy, it's great. Frailty. Bill Paxton, incredible film. Honeymoon, which I don't think we actually discussed on the channel, but boy, director Lee Janiak, I can't wait for her next picture, because this movie is really something special, really scary, really effective, really actually a good look at relationships, and like it plays on those fears really well. Wicker Man, because I love folk horror. Nightmare on Elm Street set, got all of them in there. Takes up a lot less real estate than Michael and Jason, so they can learn a thing or two from their buddy there. Nightcrawler, Unfriended, some real kind of regular movies here, and then we got one of my favorite Godzilla films, Destroy All Monsters. Hard to tell if it's a movie I really love or if I just have strong nostalgia for it. And then James Bond kind of finishes off the list here. Wish we had a better horror note to go out on, but I got my James Bond movies there. And Meatballs. Alright, hope you've enjoyed this little video.